race, conversations, and law enforcement. This is Moses' People Speak. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Moses' People Speak. I am your host, Terry Watson, and we have something unusual today. For the first time in on this podcast, we are actually here in person with the
Double.
individual. Huh?
Here's twice.
Yeah, you could because you hear me through your headphones
3 times.
3 times. Nice. All right, let me help you out here. Well, what I'll say is just a quick couple of announcements, and I'll make sure to mute myself when I'm talking to you. Quick couple of announcements, everyone. I want to make sure everyone is aware that we do have a virtual forum happening on June 29th.
No, it's like a song. When you, it's not right. The sound is not.
Is it double sound? All right. So, hey, people, can you please tell me in the comments how does it sound to you guys in the virtual world? Well, they can't hear you because your mic is mute, but when it's unmute, that's why I'll be worried. I'll keep an eye on that though.
Well, like when you say something,
Uh-huh.
it'll say it again.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind when I'm actually doing the live one.
It's saying what you said already.
Because you hear me in your headphones and you hear me on a thingy.
Mm-mm.
No?
I I hear you, and I hear twice in here.
Interesting. Okay, guys, like I said, this is the first time we're doing live. So they can hear this me right now. So you're hearing everything. You're hearing my voice, and the recording
You
as
can hear
well.
fine.
Because you hear everything. You have my headphones today. So welcome to another episode of Moses People Speak. We are live here in Buffalo, New York. I feel bad for Cariol because she's hearing me 3 times. She's hearing me in person.
Echo.
She's hearing me in her headphones, and she's hearing me through the broadcast because we had to switch some things around. But before we get started, I want to make sure people know that we are holding a forum, a virtual forum, on June 29th, and we are going to make sure we have that forum. And I'm going to try to find it. Please bear with me today, guys, because usually I'm working with 3 screens, and today I'm working with just one. So please do bear with me. Uh, all right, so here we go. So the first forum we're doing again is with titled "Law Enforcement Responding to Generational Trauma in the Black Community." That's going to feature my sister Sergeant Heather Taylor, Captain Sonia Pruitt, and my brother Damon Jones. Okay, that's going to be my only announcement today because, like I said, I feel bad for Carrie because she is hearing it 3 ways, and I want to make sure I have a chance to mute my microphone. But before we be going, I want to make sure everyone had the opportunity to also uh, um, watch the video that first connected me to Cariol. So again, please bear with me as I try to bring it up because I'm only working with one screen today. So give me 1 second. I just realized how much I missed my 3 screens. How much I actually counted on that in doing these episodes.
Tonight, a 7 Eyewitness News exclusive. Former Buffalo police officer Cariol Horne in a battle tonight to get her pension. She was fired for trying to stop a fellow officer she says was abusing a suspect. And tonight she is telling her side of the story to 7 Eyewitness News reporter Kendra Eaglin.
November 1st, 2006, there was a call of an officer in trouble at 707 Walden.
That officer, Gregory Kwiatkowski, who was responding to a domestic dispute inside of that home between Neil Mack and his girlfriend. When Officer Cariol Horne went into the house, she says Mack had already been placed under arrest.
He was handcuffed in the front, and he was sideways and being punched in the face by Gregory Kwiatkowski.
Horne and about 10 other officers who arrived at the scene helped drag Mack out of the home, but once outside, Horne says Officer Kwiatkowski was out of control.
Gregory Kwiatkowski turned Neil Mack around and started choking him. So then I'm like, Greg, you're choking him, because I thought whatever happened in the house, he was still upset about. So when he didn't stop choking him, then I just grabbed his arm from around Neil Mack's neck.
If that chokehold of a handcuffed suspect caught Horne off guard, it didn't prepare her for what she says Kwiatkowski did next.
He comes up and punches me in the face, and I had to have my bridge replaced.
Horne says other officers pulled her back when she tried to defend herself. Following that incident, Horne was fired, charged with obstruction for jumping on Officer Kwiatkowski's back and or striking him with her hands. But Officer Kwiatkowski's own words seem to conflict with the charges. In sworn testimony, he says, she never got on top of me. Nonetheless, Horne lost every appeal, her 19-year career over, and she didn't qualify for a pension. The breadwinner for her 5 children, Horne, now a truck driver to make ends meet.
My daughter said, Mommy, why'd you go to work that day? She never said, why did you do what you did, or I wish you wouldn't have done it. She just said, I wish you wouldn't have gone to work that day. So I don't regret it.
And when watching that video, how did that video make you feel today?
I should not have lost my pension for doing the right thing.
And now that video was done, was like 10 years ago, right? Roughly 10 years ago.
That video was done in 2014, I believe.
All right, I have a great idea. Watch this. I want you to take the headphones off and just use the microphone. So I have this trick where I go like this, and you can bring the microphone to your lips, and that way you can just listen to me, and then they can hear you. Does that work, guys? And that's your spot right there. So, all right, we're live. I'm actually sitting right next to Cariol Horne in Buffalo, New York. This is all new. I don't have my triple screen. So, Cariol, after you actually listen to that video, because you actually was able to listen to it again. What were some of the thoughts that came to your mind?
I was thinking that, like I said, that I should not have lost my pension because of that. It should not have been a problem with me intervening and stopping him from choking a handcuffed man.
Right. And in today's climate, we're constantly asking about good police officers, right? And the reason why I'm in Buffalo today, and the reason why people are contacting you left and right is because they're trying to find out, what does a good cop look like? So, in your words, what would a good cop look like?
Someone who serves and protects the public. Well, I guess it's been that.
I'm asking you now.
You're asking someone on the street, they would say, I would want someone who's serving and protecting me. You ask someone on the job, they want someone who writes tickets, who makes the arrests and keep that revolving door of the justice system open.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's what I mean when I say it depends on who you ask.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I brought up a comment just now. Someone said, "I love the shirt." Uh, so I think that leads me into one of my
Thank
sec.
you.
She says, "Well, you hear her yourself." She says, "Thank you."
It was
It was
made
made
for
for
me.
me.
we by the way, please ask your questions. If you ask your questions, I see them again. I'm gonna keep my eye on the screen the best way I can. So please ask your questions. If I see them, I will try to post them. But my question is, we all saw the killing of our brother Floyd, and I actually in my last episode I made a confession to my guests. I actually did not watch the video, and the reason why I didn't watch the video because I knew how that ended.
Mhm.
But you did watch the video.
I
I
did
did
You
watch
watch it.
did.
it. I couldn't
Couldn't
watch it
watch it
all at
all at
one
one
sitting,
sitting,
but
but
I did
Hmm.
eventually watch it.
What was some of the first thoughts that came to your mind when you saw that video, Cariol?
I
I
was
was
wondering,
wondering, you know,
I
I
mean,
mean,
wondering
wondering
why
why
the
the
officer
officer
didn't
didn't
stop,
stop,
but at
but
the
at the
same
same
time,
time
having
having
the
the
answer.
answer.
Mm,
And,
And
I
I
also
also
looked
looked
at,
at
the
the
civilians
civilians
and
and
their
their
reactions
reactions
and
and
knew
knew
that
that
if
if
they
they
had
had
intervened,
intervened,
they
they
could have
could have
been
been
either
either
killed
killed
or
hmm.
definitely
definitely
probably
probably
gone
gone
to
to
jail.
jail.
Right.
Um,
Um, but
but
he
he
didn't
didn't
have to
have to
die.
die.
He
Right.
didn't
Didn't
have
have
to
to
die
die
because
because
someone
someone
could
could
have
have
intervened.
intervened.
One of
One of
those
those
officers
officers
should
should
have
have
intervened,
intervened,
Right.
and
and
they
they didn't.
didn't. And it
And it
all
all
boils
boils
down
down
to a
to a
paycheck.
paycheck.
They're
They're
Right.
worried
worried
about
about
losing
losing
their
their
paycheck.
paycheck.
Right. And again, I'm sorry, guys, because I know you're asking questions. Uh, okay, I'm going to post this question up here. It's from someone where Jackie says, "What about the other officers who were there? They were witness of the abuse that was happening. Did they not speak up?"
Um,
Um,
the
the
officers
officers either
didn't
didn't
see
see
anything
anything
or
or
say they
say they
didn't
didn't
see
see
anything,
anything,
or
or
like a
a
clique of
clique of
officers
officers
that
that
came
came
up
up
with
with
the
the
story.
story.
And
And
that
that
clique of
clique of
officers
officers
are
are
the
the
ones
ones
who
who
made
made
the
the
story
story
up
up
about
about
me
me
jumping
jumping
on
on
his
his
back.
back, which I did not jump on his back. Just like you see this mic here, um, just pretend like this is the suspect. I am the officer Gregory Kwiatkowski, and this is how he had him. So I was in front of him and grabbed his arm from around Neil Mac's neck. So I wasn't even behind him to jump on his back, but that's the scenario that they went with.
And please excuse me. What I'm going to do because of the echo is I'm going to mute and unmute as we're going back and forth. So I'm going to make sure that people can hear. Um,
They hear an echo.
Only because there's two microphones one next to each other,
Okay.
right? But I'll take care of that. So is that better, folks? Yeah, people sound better. Okay,
Okay.
excellent. So my other question goes to I talk a lot about generational trauma. To me, that's really important when you are a police officer. You're dealing with the community to understand the generational trauma that's there. Can you comment on that?
Well, I feel that my family is going through the generational trauma because I was fired for stopping police brutality. And then, with my daughter, now I had police officers actually abuse her. And then with my grandchild, detain him. So it's like generational. Um, but they know what I've gone through. So, for my daughter, it's like I felt helpless. Like I should have been able to. Actually, I was out of town, which was probably a good thing. But I was out of town, but it never should have happened to her. It's not like she's a bad person or whatever. It was a car stop. So they should have gave her a ticket and sent her on her way. But they abused her because they felt like they could. And then they also mentioned my name, which I have a big problem with because if they have a problem with me, then I don't want them taking it out on my child or my grandchildren. And I feel like they are. So when we talk about generational, that's 3 generations. And so I
want to stop it from happening to anyone else.
Let me talk about, when I think of the situation that took place. You are now trying to look at um, passing Cariol's law,
Yes.
right? And Cariol's law is something that we are working on together, um, trying to bring your story and actually make it so that it could potentially not only save civilians' lives, but also protect police officers that do the right thing. So, in your own words, Carrier, because people can hear me talk about it all day long, but why is Carrier law important to you?
Well, it's important because um, using the George Floyd video as an example, those civilians could have gotten hurt. The only person there that could have stopped police brutality were police officers. So if they're afraid to do the right thing, then they're not going to stop it. So Cariol's law will protect those officers if they did stop it, and then punish them if they don't stop it.
Let's pass the microphone back. It make my life easy, actually, I think. So, uh, this is really weird because I have a headphone and microphone. So like I said, guys, we go that we're winging it, right? So show some love now. I've got two hands going on, three microphones, two cameras. And I do want to show this. I give a great quick shout out to Black Monarchy who allow us to use their space whilst they're closed for COVID. Even though Buffalo is, uh, well, I want to say green, but I guess you guys say phase three, right? So um, what I want to get to is, to me, when I describe Cariol's law, I always think about. Hold on one second. Since I'm not using this right now, there we go. So when I think of Cariol's law, I think about not only that if someone intervened, one of the police officers intervened, not only could George Floyd still be alive, but four police officers would still have their jobs and not be charged with anything. So, when we talk about the incident that happened to you were the only person that actually had any fallback at that time from that incident. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that a any person, if they saw someone being hurt, would want to intervene. It's like human nature. Um, and I feel that they should intervene, but not to the point where they are going to get hurt or possibly get killed themselves. Um, that's why Garrio's law is really important also, because nobody would be put in that situation to to even have to wonder, should I or shouldn't I. It's like, as far as being a police officer, I thought there was a law already on the books. So, not that I said, well, let me think about, is there a law before I do this? No, it was just a reaction to something that was happening. And of course, I did what I was supposed to do. Um, but, as far as the city was concerned, rather than deal with the issue of police brutality, they were basically trying to cover it up. And that is a big problem. That's not just a problem here in Buffalo, New York. It's a problem everywhere, because they would rather say that the officers are trained to kill pretty much, and they relied on their training. So that's why this person is dead, rather than deal with the fact that, there's a lack of training, that there needs to be more training, and definitely psychological exams. Because in George Floyd's case, that officer, you can't tell me he didn't intentionally kill him, because you cannot stay on somebody's neck for almost 9 minutes and then expect them to survive, especially when you have people telling you his nose has been bleeding. He's telling you, I can't breathe. You already know from all the countless other people who have died at the hands of police that the I can't breathe is something that is
um, something that lets you know that this person is in distress. So if you can't acknowledge that, then I mean, what would be going on in your head? Like, oh, he say he can't breathe, but he's talking, and this is something I used to hear on the job. He's talking, so he can't breathe. Um, so if we were to play with what was going, or try to figure out what was going on in that officer's head, okay, if he says he can't breathe, why would you not get off his neck? If the people are saying check his pulse, why would you not think he's dead? Not dead. If they say his nose is bleeding, why would you not think he's not in distress? So I think he purposely did it.
So some people make some really good comments here. I want to acknowledge it too. Before this show, before this webisode aired, there was a comment section, of course, and it was. I think the last time I checked yesterday, we had about 60 different comments, and I try to go to the comments. I don't respond to the comments as well, but um, the comments really was about why didn't they intervene, and I think your story is beginning to give people some insight to why an officer would see something and not intervene. Um, One of the interesting things that I think is so important, though, too, is that whenever we look at someone intervening, like you did, right? Um, there's a chance of retaliation, and so part of Cariol's law is about addressing that. So, can you give some people some understanding about why that's so important to include the retaliation piece?
Okay, the retaliation piece is important because in my case, they were retaliating against me. This was before the November 1st incident. And that was because I stood up for my 16-year-old son who was falsely arrested, and by, and filed a complaint, and the officer was brought up on charges. So after that, I was getting the cold shoulders. I was fired. Although I got my job back, I was fired for an injury that I had from the job. So I was brought back, and when I came back, it was like they brought me up on charges again, because they were trying to make me go through the basic police academy for new recruits instead of just refreshing me like they do any other officer. Then after that, they brought me up on charges, but those charges were dismissed, and the um, hearing officer ruled that I was receiving disparate treatment. So then after that, you have Gregory Kwiatkowski, who is choking a handcuffed man. And then everyone in that case, including the suspect, all of his charges were dropped because we never should have been there in the first place. And the call was because of a check. So everybody's charges were dropped. I was the only one that got in trouble for it. So it was pretty much the retaliation, because when I complained about that officer locking up my innocent 16-year-old son and then filed a complaint because, he lied in his report, and he was found guilty of those charges, they came after me and continued to come after me until now. But every time they didn't have a reason. I didn't have not one suspension day. Out of 20 years and 2 months, not one suspension day, but fired twice. And both of them were because of the department.
So there's a lot of questions here about your pension, and I know that one of the things we obviously are fighting for. And when I say we, I mean there's a collective group here in Buffalo. Last time I checked, about 52 different organizations, including mines and businesses. There's also Black and Law Enforcement of America, who came out on your behalf as well to fight to get your pension back, and I imagine many others. Um, so my the answer to your question is yes. There is movement to try to get her pension back. I can actually answer that question because we actually talked about that quite a bit. Um, One thing I want to dive into, Carriol, is because one of the other pieces that it's so important to understand about your story is that you are, yes, you are a police officer, but you are also the mother of 5 children, right? You are also what they call a community police officer. So can you explain to me a little bit about what are some of the fondest memories you have about being a community police officer, and what does that mean for people who are listening?
Okay. When I was a community police officer, I worked at the law enforcement. It was called the LEAP program, Law Enforcement Enrichment Program.
I'm
And
familiar with that. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
So we worked with like children, and I like that because we were basically trying to show the kids that there are good officers. Um, and we genuinely, the crew that I work with, we genuinely liked working with the children. So it wasn't like we were just pushed on the kids, and we really wanted to do that. So and that was another form of retaliation because they were saying that someone who had less time than me would take my position because it was a federally funded program. So I wanted to see how it was written because I was wondering how could they take me out of something that I love doing, and that was their they wanted to punish me because I didn't be quiet.
So, people who listen to me, and I'm sorry, guys, I'm not looking at the comments like I probably should be, but people who listen to me quite a bit know that one of the things I always talk about is when a police officer do the right thing. It's so important for the community to come out for that police officer, to support that police officer. I've been here for only a day and a half, but I've been doing a lot of virtual work with some members of this community, and I see there's a genuine love for you here. I even even some of the people who I met yesterday, and so how important is it for the community to stand behind officers who decide to cross that thin blue line?
It's very important because I think that it was because of my family and community that kept me going and keeps me going to where I don't want to stop until I create change. Um, you know, um, I don't know if you saw the video of the Bad Cop rally. Okay. So you see, like this many years later, how, they're saying fire, they were chanting fire, and no pension, no peace, no pension, no peace, because they feel that the pension is the answer, or if they damage you financially, that they can destroy you. But I guess they keep wondering, like, well, wait a minute, we've taken everything, and she still won't shut up. Because they can't take my voice. They can't take my mind. And that is because I've had the community behind me and because I have to fight for my children. Because what I'm fighting for, I may never see. I want my children to enjoy it, my grandchildren to enjoy it. So for me, um, I get peace out of fighting for change. So um, to have the community backing me, I really, really appreciate it. And if I didn't have them, I don't know where I would be right now.
I really love any type of community support that comes out to support someone that like you who, because that's something that, and we had you had a chance to meet, well, it was Corey and Damon when you came to Pennsylvania, and one of the things that I don't want to pick Corey P. Hopefully he's not listening, but one of the things that Corey P. Talked about was how sometimes you have to be unconventional in the way you deal with the community, right? Sometimes you have to it's not just about wearing a badge and patrolling the streets, but it's how you interact with that community. And he always told his story about the barbecue, right? He always has that barbecue story that, remember that veggie burger on the grill, but I think that it's so important that community policing is always highlighted, and when you are doing that, and part of that is you build that kind of connection with that community, and so that way you feel like you are responsible when if you see something like that to be able to engage. I have a one of my questions here is, I'm always ask my guests this, no matter who they are and no matter what the show is. I always ask them to leave a message for what would you like to see happen in the future in regards to policing in the community. But for me, I'm going to change that question up just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to say, what message would you give to young adults who are thinking of pursuing law enforcement? Specifically, I'm going to say African American females, because my sisters in blue. I made a statement not so long ago that I think they have the most heart wrenching stories. Obviously your story, and you talked to Monica Blake for a bit too. Your stories is, when I think about some of the stories I've heard in my time of talking to police, y'all two really is, it's like, what if I could curse on this show, I would, but I'm not. But you get what I'm saying. So I want to ask you, what message would you have for young female police officers? Sorry, young females who are thinking about going into the police work.
Okay, so when you first come on the job, you're on probation for a certain amount of time. And that amount of time, that is when they kind of groom you. They basically try to see what you're made of. They say, okay, during this, in Buffalo, it was 18 months. So they say, okay, you can be fired for anything in the next 18 months. So you get on a job and you see people doing wrong, but you don't say anything because you want to keep your job. You want to keep your paycheck. So then you get conditioned to it. You find out who the players are, and then basically try to avoid being around those officers. Sometimes you can avoid it, sometimes you can't. But and then there's really no one to go to when you do want to complain about those officers. That's what I'm trying to change. So if you want to come on the job, I would not tell you not to. I would think that it definitely would be a good thing. But even not only as a police officer, a new recruit, or anything, I think as a person, if stuff does not make sense, then you need to fight it. And a lot of stuff is really not making sense right about now. So we need to fight it and we need to change it.
So another question that came to mind as you were saying that is, I've been talking about this quite a bit, and it's this concept of presentation without true representation, and you just sort of dived into that, right? Because you bring something to the job. You bring, the Cariol Horne brings something to the job, right? And part of that is the culture. Part of that is the awareness of the community, right? Um, and so I always think it's dangerous for to hire in regards to this presentation. So I'm gonna hire this black female because she's a black female, or I'm gonna hire this black male because he's a black male. If they don't have the sense of community, because that could be somewhat, that could also hurt the cause of bridging the gap. So I always say, if you're going to bring someone on board, make sure that that person understands the community that they're in. And the reason why I bring this up, because when I was speaking with you the other day, you made a statement that you think it's so important that that police live in the community that they actually serve. Can you tell me? And that's a debate between police officers. I know this because I talked with my fair amount. So, in your opinion, why is that so important?
So if someone wants to work in the hood or ghetto, as they call it, or some even call it the jungle, which I didn't appreciate that, but
Imagine.
especially since I live there. But if they want to work there, then they should live there. And if you don't think that it's good enough for you to live in,
then you shouldn't want to work there. Because if you feel that you can't live there, then you're feeling like you're above these people. So why would you want to live with somebody that you think you're above, unless you feel like you want some type of control? So I think that if they live in a neighborhood, they will respect the people more. You're not going to just go not lock up your neighbor or beat on your neighbor or kill your neighbor. Hmm.
Well, anybody. So at this time, I would typically, if I had my hands free, which you could tell I do not, I would scroll through here to see if there's any questions. Oh, thank you, Cariol. She is so nice. She's gonna hold the camera for me. I'm gonna scroll through here real quick. Um, all right. Okay, so there's a question here. And most of it about your pension. I think people are really interested in about your pension. So, and I think we sort of addressed that too. Carriel says she's interested too. Well, you know what? We actually have a busy day today. This is one of the many interviews that Carriel has planned for this week, but I think she also has another one that we have to address. So um, I wanted to give the time to actually thank Carriel. So let's show some love. You can do that by showing that love button. And again, I think that she can see it too, so she knows to show her love. So I want to just quickly close out. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to try to do my best. All right, hold that for a second. This is so weird. All right, let's go. All right. Thank you. So again, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to Cariol today. I think that I know I've been out here again for a day, about a day and a half, and meeting with this community, and I'm really hoping that her story gets out there. One of the most important things that this story teaches us is that there are police officers out there who do cross that line, but we need a community to always support them and make sure we hold them up because that's exactly what we're asking for. So, with that said, I want to remind everyone out there to tune in for the virtual forums. The symposium link is live. And again, we are trying to have that symposium in April of 2021. And again, show Cariol Horne some love. I'm going to, once I get my hands free, before I end the broadcast, I will put the website cariolslaw.com in there so people can see exactly what that law details are. And again, no matter what state you're in or what state you're from, should I say, there should be some type of adaptation to that law that can apply to your city, to your state, to make sure that police officers who do intervene and they are mandated to intervene, that they are protected from retaliation. So, with that said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And again, remember to speak power through truth. Everyone, have a great day. That's something new for me because usually I say good night. All right, I'm going to put the link in there too. So, hold on 1 second, guys. Okay, let me get carry us up real fast. All right. So I want to, okay, since we don't have an after party today, because usually, I'm sorry, Carrie, usually there's an after party where I end the show and then I do personally. We don't have an after party today, but I want to read the comments that people are saying, thank you for speaking out. Thank you for still being strong. Um, they thank you for telling your story. You are a hero. So, so with that said, guys, again, I put Cariol's Law in the chat box. And by all means, again, I'll see you guys when I get back to State College. All right. Everyone have a good night. Oh, good day.